Aston Martin have been this season's surprise package, and I don't mean that as a compliment. Lance Stroll's 2-point finishes have earned the team 10 points, which sits them 7th in the Constructors' Championship. But for a squad with as much investment as Aston Martin have had, that is a bitterly disappointing result. For Fernando Alonso, it's just another painful season, a long way from the end of the grid he would like to be fighting at. No one denies he still has the talent, but is age finally coming to him? And does he still want to drive for backmarket teams at 45 years old? Today, I'll check out the shocking things Fernando Alonso has just said about his future, why Aston Martin is having such a bad season, and why it might not be the end of the world for them. So don't go anywhere. Having switched to Aston Martin in 2023, following a 2-year stint with Alpine after his comeback to the sport in 2021, it was confirmed in April 2024 that Alonso would remain with the squad through the 2026 season, meaning that he'll be on board for the new wave of regulations. Initially, his move to Aston Martin seemed like a masterstroke. After Sebastian Vettel's struggle with the team for a few seasons, it seemed unlikely that some shock turnaround was possible. But Alonso arrived in 2023 and picked up 6 podiums in his first 8 races with the team. Sadly, none with a win that every race fan would have loved him to have. But at 41 years old, it looked like Alonso was going to be the centerpiece of a team on the up. Sadly though, that was as good as it got for the Spaniard. Over the course of 2023, the team started to fall down the competitive order, and it was a decline that they haven't yet managed to arrest. Nonetheless, the now 43-year-old appears as driven as ever when out on track. But when asked during the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix weekend how long he sees himself continuing to race for, Alonso suggested that he will decide season by season. Not at 50, but I don't know, Alonso said of the age that he might still be racing at. That's why we kept open the possibility as well. I want to race this year for sure, and next year for sure, because of the change of regulations, and I wanted to experience the 2026 rules and Honda coming to the team. Then the surprise that Adrian was joining the team a few months after that. There were things that were appealing last year when we sat together and negotiated the contract. But after 2026, I don't know. I'll go season by season. I'll see how I feel, how motivated I am. Now I am very motivated, but I cannot guarantee that for 3 or 4 years and compromise the team. At the moment, the idea that Alonso is compromising the team is laughable. Obviously, if Aston Martin were in the position to bring in Oscar Piastri and Max Verstappen to drive the car, then yes, you would say that Alonso would probably have to go. But is he compromising the team by preventing their long-time reserve driver Felipe Drugovich from having a seat? No, probably not. Maybe Drugovich is a secret superstar and Aston Martin have just completely missed that fact in all the testing data they have from him, but that seems pretty unlikely. However, as Alonso says, he can't guarantee that in the future he won't compromise Aston Martin in some way with his driving. He seems incredibly committed to the team for the long term, and that means beyond the end of his driving career. It seems pretty unlikely that at this point he's going to drive anywhere else. The things he says about the team reflect his desire to be a part of this project, far beyond the point that he can no longer drive. I'll drive for as long as I feel fast and competitive, and the team needs me behind the wheel, the 2-time world champion explained. But my contract is much longer than my racing career, so I'll stay with this team for many, many years in a different role. If that means we can win a world championship even when I'm not behind the wheel, I will still feel very proud of the project. Alonso seems set on being what Niki Lauda was to Mercedes, and with his driving contract up at the end of 2026, and his admission that if the team would be better served by having another driver in his seat, then he would step aside, maybe we could see him in that Lauda role sooner rather than later. So as I've already said in this video, and as you all know, things at Aston Martin have been far from ideal this year, or last year actually. The team have made huge investments with a state-of-the-art wind tunnel and factory, and big-name signings such as Adrian Newey, but haven't yet seen any return on that. For fans, it's been pretty disappointing, especially after the heights of 2023. Many, myself included, expected them to really push on in the current regulations and establish themselves among the current Big Four of Red Bull, Ferrari, McLaren and Mercedes. What has been underestimated though is how much time the team needed to transition. Moving factories, getting the new wind tunnel calibrated and working, waiting for Newey to finish his gardening leave, it all takes time. The wind tunnel wasn't up and running until March this year, meaning the current car was designed in Mercedes' aging tunnel. Newey only started a month ago or so, and as a consequence, the current car has been made during a transitional period without any of the team's new toys, and the result is obvious in their results this season. That being said, you can only go so far with excuses in F1. The most alarming statistic from 2025 so far is that after 5 race weekends, Aston Martin is the team that has improved the least compared to last season, with an average gain of just 2.5 tenths over a lap compared to 2024. Nearly a third of the improvement achieved by the next worst improver, Red Bull, which has improved by 6 tenths. The most improved team this season is Alpine, with an average improvement across the first 5 weekends of 1.777 seconds. A full second and a half better off over a lap than Aston Martin compared to last season. No matter how many excuses you offer up, that is a pretty appalling performance by the factory team. The problem that Aston Martin have faced is very similar to that of the rest of the grid over the current regulations. While chasing improvements in certain aspects, which is straight line speed in Aston Martin's case, they've compromised the car elsewhere. The aerodynamic balance of the ground effect cars is so fussy that the most minor or trivial change in one place can create huge problems elsewhere. They aren't the only team over the past couple of years to have fitted new parts and then removed them a few races later after the drivers have declared the car too difficult to drive. Chasing top speed and fast corner performance destroyed their slow speed performance, which had been the cornerstone of that incredible 2023 season. With this season's car, the team took a step back, returning to basics in hopes of regaining performance in slow corners, aided by a redesigned front wing aimed at correcting understeer. But the AMR25 doesn't seem to have fully embraced this new approach. In Saudi Arabia, Alonso said, "I would say that the first 4 Grand Prix, the slow-speed corners were probably our weakest part of the track. But there are also some concerns as well of bouncing and some other stuff that we're facing from time to time. We are working hard on improving those." At the end of the day, Aston Martin probably needs to take a long, hard look at themselves, the results the factory team have produced over the past few seasons, and call it quits on these regulations. There is no evidence to suggest that a few simple upgrades will turn the current car into anything other than a bang-average midfield machine. They're nowhere near the front 4 teams, which means at best they'll be fighting for 8th, 9th or 10th place finishes. Yes, there is a lot of prize money to be won by finishing 5th rather than 10th in the Constructors' Championship, but they don't need the extra $10, $20 or $30 million a few places in the Constructors' Championship could earn them. They have Middle East oil baron money behind them. The only prize that matters to them are the trophies, and this season, those trophies are out of reach. But with new regulations next year, a new wind tunnel to utilize, and Adrian Newey aiding the design, trophies could be within reach in 2026. There is a silver lining to their current position as well. If they were to stay in 7th position in the Constructors' Championship come June, when the sliding scale of aero testing allowance is recalculated, they would get a big boost to their testing time. They would be allowed an extra 96 wind tunnel runs in the second half of 2025 compared to the first half. Now, that might not sound like much, but it is an 11% increase on what they've been allowed in the first 6 months. In a sport where we are constantly told that the tiny percentage gains make all the difference, 11 is a pretty big number. So while Aston Martin might have to endure a pretty disappointing season this year, it will give them the best chance of success next season. What do you think of Alonso saying that 2026 could be his last season? And do you think that Aston Martin's poor performance this season could actually be a blessing? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and until next time, drive safe and bye for now.